لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم سيد المرسلين. Inshallah, my brothers and sisters, today we're going to continue on the series of Bidaya and Nihaya, the beginning and the end. Last week we discussed the journey of the soul, and the week before we discussed how Allah created the universe and everything within it, how Allah created life as we know. So inshallah this week, continuation from the journey of the soul, we'd expect it to go on to the afterlife, because we discussed the life in the grave. So naturally the next stage would be to discuss resurrection, Yawm al-Qiyamah. However, I'm putting a pause on resurrection because we need to discuss what happens before the day of judgment. Right? And the Rasul ﷺ said that the hour will not be established until 10 things happen. So he gave us signs for us to look out for, and these will signal the hour to come. And the signs, they break down into two categories. The first is called the minor signs, and the second is called the major signs. And the minor signs, the first of them was the death of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. The death of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That was the first of the minor signs. And his death signaled for the other signs to now begin. And he says alayhi salatu wasalam that I have been brought forth, and the last hour like this. And he pointed with his two fingers and he brought them close together, meaning there's nothing between him and the last hour. Meaning after him, the only thing to come after him is the hour. There's nothing to come between them two. And this is also in evidence that he is the seal of all prophets. He is the final messenger. So there will be no other messenger warning us. Therefore, between him and the hour, there's nothing. So he told us of certain signs. Now, the minor signs occur since the Rasul ﷺ all the way up until the hour is established. These are the minor signs. And there are many. They can happen any time. The major signs, however, and this is why they are called major, they are significant. And there will be a minor sign which signals the major signs to take place. And the major signs, the Rasul ﷺ said in the narration that, beads, like a necklace or something, like beads. He said they are like beads in a string. When you cut the string, all the beads, they come following one after the other. He said, so when one of the major signs happen, the rest will follow straight away. And in fact, which we will come to today, inshallah, many of the major signs actually overlap. There will be where we are seeing more than one of the major signs. Where the minor signs, we might see one and then 100 years later we'll see another. There's no condition on them being together. They just happen whenever. They are prophecies as evidence that the Rasul ﷺ is a true prophet. And he warned us of these things. So, some of the minor signs, or the last of the minor signs, sorry, I shouldn't say the last because it's not the last, there will be more, but one of the minor signs which signals the major signs to take place is Al-Mahdi. Have all of you heard about Al-Mahdi? So I don't need to go into detail about Mahdi, right? So Al-Mahdi, he comes and he will spread equity and peace upon this earth after there was corruption spread upon it. And he will be the signal for the major signs to take place. And of the first major signs will be Dajjal, which we will come to in a minute, inshallah. So one day the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sees the Sahaba talking, discussing, and they seemed a bit worried. And they're talking about the Day of Judgment. And he said to them, don't worry about it yet. There's 6 that will happen before that happens. And these are of the minor signs. He said, my death. So that's the first. And this is what then signals all the other signs to take place. He says, the conquest of Bayt al-Maqdis, of Jerusalem. So the death of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's happened, that's took place. The conquest of Jerusalem, that's already took place. He said, then Mota, يعني there'll be a battle in which death will take place, so much death will take place. This has also happened. There was a battle where the Muslims were involved in, and the death toll was unbelievable. Then he said, wealth. You will be given so much wealth that a person will go out to give charity and there'll be no one to accept it. No one will accept your charity. And this has also happened. Subhanallah. This has also happened. So already 4 of these signs that I've mentioned have all taken place. Then he said, a fitna, a trial, will come and enter the household of every Muslim. Now this one, there's difference of opinion, and of the opinions is some of the modern scholars today, they say, is this not the TV? It's in everybody's household. And is the TV not a test and a trial? And we see it. Our children are influenced by the TV. They're influenced about what they watch. They watch something they want to imitate. So if they see something cheeky on TV, they're going to try and spread that cheekiness and act cheeky towards their parents, right? So this is one of the fitna. And the last thing he mentioned was Hudna. And this is a treaty which is made between the Muslims and Banu Asfar. So these are the Romans. In modern day times they are considered the Europeans and the Americans, so the Western world. There will be a treaty between the Muslims and the West. And this will be a treaty which is calm, yani content for the Muslims. It's a peaceful treaty. And the Muslims will join forces with the Westerns, with the non-Muslims, and they will fight an enemy belonging to the non-Muslims. So the Muslims will fight alongside the non-Muslims. Then they will become victorious. They win. Then, after some time, one of the Christian members of the army will stand up and hold up the cross. And he says, the cross has become victorious. So a Muslim will become outraged. How can you claim this? And his anger gets the best of him, and he kills the Christian. And then the treaty is no more. The treaty becomes broken. So then, Europe and America, or the Western world, gather an army to fight against the Muslims. And in a narration, the Rasul ﷺ says, there will be 80 flags. So this army that comes forth will have 80 different flags. Under each flag is 12,000 strong, 12,000 people strong, to fight against the Muslims. So quick calculation, it's just under 1 million people. 1 million people come forth to fight the Muslims. And as they come forth, they call out to the Muslims, or to a group of the Muslims. And they say to them, leave us, this is not between us and you, leave us, let us fight them. Who are they calling? The who? The Jewish? No. They are calling the other Muslims who accepted Islam. They are calling the Europeans who accepted Islam, who are now fighting with the Muslims against the other Europeans. So the Europeans who are non-Muslim say to the Muslim Europeans, leave, our beef is not with you, step aside and let us fight the other Muslims. So they stand firm and they say, Wallahi, we will not stand aside and let you fight with our brothers. In other words, they remain with the rest of the Muslims. And a great fight takes place. A great battle takes place in which a third of the Muslims will leave Islam. One entire third of the people who came out to fight will leave Islam. And these people, Allah will never look at them nor forgive them. They are of the West. Because fear was put into their hearts, they left Islam. Another third goes out to fight, and they will be destroyed, they will be killed. And these are of the best martyrs of their time. And then the last third, they will go out to fight. And in the first day of fighting, they will say, we all go out and we don't return unless as martyrs or victorious. In other words, they're prepared for that. They're going out, they're fighting to the end. They fight until nightfall comes, and then they retreat and the other side retreats. Then the day after that comes, and the same thing. They say, we will go out and fight until we are victorious or until we are martyrs. Until the third day they say the same thing. And then after that, Allah's victory descends upon them and they become victorious. And they become victorious at a time where many people have already lost their lives. So what happiness is there to be spread? You're victorious at a time where you don't even want the war booty. Everything you've gotten in war, the spoils of war, you don't want it anymore. Because your family, your brother, your sister, your father, everyone around you, in one narration it says, to every man, or to every 100 people in a family, only one man survives. So 99 people are killed, and only one survives. And what happiness is that? What happiness is that? Just before we carry on, I'll pause here. We mentioned there's 10 signs, major signs. Does everybody know the major signs? So to go over them quick. And we said some of these cross over. And this is why I'm pausing here, because now it's going to lead on to some of the major signs. And we need to understand these signs, inshallah. So of the major signs, there's 10. We have a Dajjal, the Antichrist. Then we have the beast. A beast will come forth from the earth which speaks. We have a dukhan, a smoke that descends upon the earth, a great smoke that comes down. We have Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam. So Jesus, the son of Mary, he will descend. So how many of these so far? 4. Then we have we have Yajuj and Majuj, Gog and Magog. We have the rising of the sun from the place it sets. So right now it rises from the east and sets in the west. But one of the major signs is the sun rises from the west and it sets in the east. So how many is that? 6. Then we have 3. So these are 3 times. 1, 2. So we said 6. So 7, 8, and 9 are sinkholes. Big sinkholes that occur and destroys part of the earth. 3 great major sinkholes. And the 10th and last will be a fire, which in one narration says in Yemen, and another narration says in Aden, so very specific, starting from Aden. A great fire which begins in Yemen and spreads and causes the people to run to their place of resurrection or the place of gathering. These are the 10 major signs. These are the 10 major signs. Now we all ask, when is the last hour? It's always a question. If this is life, then what's after life? Which we discussed last week, the journey of the soul. And then they say, and then if that's afterlife, what is the ultimate afterlife? Ultimately, what is the end? Where is the end? Meaning, is there a day of judgment? And subhanAllah, in a hadith, a very long hadith, the Rasul says to us, I won't give you the entire hadith, just a part of it, inshallah. When he was elevated into the heavens, so when he rose up the heavens and he met Allah, that same hadith, during his travels, he met with Ibrahim alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, and Isa alayhi salam. So Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. And they were in conversation. These 3 were talking amongst each other. And the Rasul is listening. So they ask amongst themselves. And then they are asked, when is the last hour? When will the hour be established? Ibrahim alayhi salam, so he's the first person to be asked, because he's the father of the prophets. He's Khalilullah. So they ask him, when is the hour? And he says, I don't know. So they turn to Musa alayhi salam, Kalim Allah, the one who Allah spoke to directly. They say, Ya Musa, when is the hour? And he says, I don't know. So Isa alayhi salam, he says, all I know. So now they ask Isa alayhi salam, he says, all I know is that Allah has told me, is whatever Allah has informed me. And He has told me that I will come down at a time and fight against the Dajjal. So no one will be able to destroy a Dajjal, the Antichrist, except for Jesus himself. So this is all I know is what Allah has told me. That I will come down and fight a Dajjal and I will kill him. But when he sees me, he will melt. He will begin to melt and dissolve the way salt dissolves in water. The way salt dissolves in water. This is just by him seeing Isa alayhi salam. So, we'll continue inshallah where we stopped a minute ago, which was the fight. The Muslims against the non-Muslims. There will be a great war which takes place. And when the Muslims win, what winning is it? Where you have lost 99% of your family and you're the only one who survives. It will be a day of winning but a day of sorrow, where winning doesn't mean anything. Then a call is called out, a sound is made, and it says, "O believers, the Dajjal has come forth." The Antichrist has now come forth. Now, I'll pause here another minute. There's a narration. Sorry, it's not a narration. It's one of the Salaf. He says, on this day, after living with Al-Mahdi, so the Mahdi will be the one who's leading the army up until this point so far. And he says, the Mahdi spreads peace and equity, meaning wealth, amongst this earth, just the way it was corrupt beforehand. But once the Dajjal is called forth, then what point is living anymore? There's no more good. Because the Dajjal is the greatest fitna to befall this earth. The greatest fitna. And there is not a single prophet except that he warns of the Antichrist. Every prophet warned his people of the Antichrist. And then the Rasul ﷺ says to us, he says, every prophet warned his people of the Antichrist, but and then he tells us more. He says, I will tell you more about him. What does he tell us? He says, he is blind in one eye. He is blind in the right eye. His eye looks like a grape, a bulging grape. And he says, and your Lord is not blind in one eye. The Dajjal has one eye and your Lord doesn't have it. Your Lord is not one-eyed. And he says, and he will have the word kafir written on his forehead, disbeliever. And then he spelt it, kaf, fa, ra. Meaning this is an actual, it's not just something some people see, some people don't. It's an actual physical thing on a Dajjal's forehead, which everyone will see. And every Muslim will be able to read it, whether literate or illiterate. And some of the scholars, they say it's like writing Allah. You know when we write Allah? If I say to someone who's just accepted Islam, who now knows the very basics of Islam, and I show him the word Allah in Arabic, he'll read it straight away. Right? As soon as he sees the word Allah, he'll go, Allah. But if I showed him the word kafir, would he be able to read it? No, no one's taught him what kafir, how to write kafir or anything. So here, some of the scholars, they say it's as if that every Muslim will be able to read it. As soon as they see it, they know this means kafir, this means disbelief. So we learn that a Dajjal has a physical marking on his head. His right eye is bulging out like a grape. In another narration, it says he's also blind in his left eye. And there's like a cloud over his left eye that's green. So Dajjal is in fact blind. So when he's called out, when the people after this battle takes place, and someone calls out, a Dajjal has come forth, the Mahdi sends out 10 people, 10 riders to go and make sure if the news is true or false. And the Rasul ﷺ says, these will be the best riders of their time, the best riders. And I know them and their fathers, their names and their fathers' names. Subhanallah. And they go and they affirm that the Dajjal has come forth. But the Muslims, they fight. They try and fight against the Dajjal. But we know the only person who can destroy the Dajjal is who? Is Jesus. So all our fighting is doing is just trying to create a barrier, that's all. But when the Dajjal comes forth, what should be our reaction? We should flee, hide, because he is a great fitna. None of you should ever wish to meet the Dajjal. None of us should ever wish this. And the more we hear about the Dajjal, unfortunately, there's some of us who say, if I'm at the time of the Dajjal, I'll show him who I am. I'll be brave, I'll do this, I'll do this. But in a narration, the Rasul teaches us that a man who thinks he's strong with his iman, he goes out to face al-Dajjal, and the Dajjal brings out the weakness in this man, the doubt that he had, and he becomes a follower of the Dajjal. So why do we want to face him? In fact, in our salah, the Rasul taught us, the Sahaba, they said, he used to teach us, alayhi salatu wasalam, this dua, the way he taught us the Quran. Meaning he made sure we knew this dua. After every salah, just before the Rasul completed his salah and does the taslim, he says, Allahumma, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from the punishment of hellfire and the punishment of from the punishment of the grave. So the punishment of the fire, the punishment of the grave, the fitna of life and death, and the evil fitna, the great evil fitna of Dajjal. We should be seeking refuge in Allah from these things after every single one of our salahs. And this goes to show how evil of a fitna it will be. It's wajib to say it. So some scholars say, in fact, there's a narration where one of the scholars is teaching his son how to pray. And he taught his son this dua at the end of the salah. And one day his son finished without saying the dua. And the scholar, he says, get up and repeat your salah. So he's seen it as obligatory. You have to say this dua. He says to him, get up and repeat your entire salah so that you can add this at the end. And this is the meaning of seeking refuge in Allah. There's evil always around us. And if we don't seek refuge in Allah, who are we going to seek refuge from? One of the scholars, he says to his students, he said, if you're in a field and there's a lot of sheep coming at you, in another narration, it's if there's a wolf coming at you or a dog coming at you. So the sheep are coming at you and they're trying to come at you, attack you. What would you do? He said, I will push them. I will guard myself. I will protect myself. He says, what about if they come again? He says, I will push them. He says, if they come a third time, he says, I will push them. He says, if they keep coming, he goes, I will push. He goes, my son, what effort is that? What kind of effort is this? That you're continuously trying to push away, push. Shall I tell you something that if you were to do it, it will protect you from all this? He says, yes. He says, call the shepherd, the person who's looking after these, who owns these sheep, call him and tell him to take them away. Once he takes them away, khalas, you're free. He said, and my son, just like that, the fitan will come to you, and shaitan and everything will continue to come to you and try and test you and lead you astray. And if you continue pushing, you'll go nowhere, because they're coming from all sides. But if you call on their Lord, on Allah, the one who owns everything, if you seek refuge in Allah, then Allah will remove all this away from you. So all we have to do is be sincere in our calling upon Allah, in true faith, in believing that Allah is able. Allah will see a way out for you. So we said, Ad-Dajjal now comes forth. And the Rasul ﷺ describes to us a hadith of Tamim al-Dari. And in this hadith, the Rasul ﷺ one day calls the people to salah. So they all come to the masjid and they pray. And when they finish praying, the Rasul ﷺ turns to them and says, remain seated, don't leave. So he gets up on the minbar, he gets up on the pulpit, and he says to them, this man has come, Tamim al-Dari has come to me, and he has narrated something to me which I tell you. which I always tell you. And he says to Tamim al-Dari, say to them what you told me. So he says to them that Tamim al-Dari, before he was narrating this to Rasulullah, he used to be a Christian. So he says, me and 30 men were traveling on a boat. Then the waves and the wind came, and they were very powerful. And we were there for some time. For 10 days the waves were tossing them about. The wind was tossing them left, right and centre. Until they reach a place where they see an island. So they get down on their rowing boats and they reach the island. When they reach the island, a beast comes out of the island, an animal comes out. And he says the animal was so hairy, we couldn't distinguish its face from its back. It had long hair, we didn't know what's his face and what's his back. So we said, woe to you! Who are you? They were scared. They said, woe to you, who are you? And they said, it responded to them, you will come to know, go, someone is waiting for you. And he said, we were so scared, we thought that this was the devil. So we rushed quick. We went, and he told us to go to a monastery, so to a place. We went, and in it we seen a man, a big man, muscular, big, kneel down, handcuffed. And this man, they say to him, who are you? And he says, you will soon come to know about me. And he asks them some questions. He says, where are you from? They're from the Arabian Peninsula. So then he asks them 3 questions. And he asks them, what are the dates like in the Arabian Peninsula? There's a river there, what's the river like? And he asks them about the prophets, if the prophets come forth. And what do the people say about this prophet? Do they follow him? Do they not? Do they fight him? What happens when they fight him? Is he victorious? Are they victorious? So they respond to his questions. He says, soon these dates won't bear any fruit anymore. These plants won't bear any fruit. And this river will run dry. They're like, what? This river will run dry? It feeds so many villages, and this river's going to run dry. He's like, this river will run dry. And then when he asked them about the Prophet, ﷺ, he said, if they follow him, that is better for them. But my time has drew near where I will be allowed free. So then they go back to the Rasul ﷺ, and he explains the hadith to the Rasul ﷺ. And the Rasul ﷺ, he is holding his staff and he hits down on the floor. And he says, this is Tayyiba. So he is affirming this is the good land. This is Medina. This is the land that this man is talking about. He said, and did I not tell you about the Dajjal? Have I not warned you about the Dajjal? So here we have someone foreign, so someone outside of the circle affirming what the Rasul ﷺ had said. So we know that he is alive, he is waiting to be freed. And the Rasul ﷺ points and he says, he is over there. And then he points the other way and he says, no, he's over there. And then he says, in fact, he is in the east, he is in the east, he is in the east. So the Dajjal will come forth. And wherever he goes, he will spread havoc. So we said he is big in stature, in build. He's blind in the right eye. His complexion, he's white with a reddish tint. He has very thick, coarse, curly hair. He has no children. No children. He has the word kafir written on his head. When he comes forth, he will have 2 rivers. One river will be white and pure, and the other river will be red and fire. The one that's white and looking pure is in fact the fire. And the one that looks like fire is in fact paradise. So when the people follow him and enter into the white river, they are entering into hellfire. And the Rasul said, when you see these rivers, close your eyes and enter into the fire. And you will see that it is truly Jannah, it is paradise. But this is one of these things that the Antichrist has come forth with to test you, to test your faith. If you believe in him, then you have disbelieved in Allah. And this is why if you believe in him and you go into the river that looks calm and cool, you believe in him and you belied in Allah, and therefore that is the true fire. But if you believe in Allah and you disbelieve in the Dajjal, when you go into the one that looks like fire, in fact that is the coolness, and that is paradise. Allah grants him miracles, or what seem to be miracles. And he allows him to control the rain, and to control the wind, and to control the crop. So much so that when he travels, he says to the land, bring forth your wealth. And the land, the earth, spits out its gold, its rubies, its diamonds, everything. All its wealth comes forth for this man. He goes to a people, and he says to them, do you believe in me as your Lord? And if they believe, then he commands the heaven, the skies to bring forth their rain, and the land to bring forth its fruit. And the following morning, the fruits are full, in abundance. The cows, others are full of milk. Everything is full. And when he goes to another town and he says to them, do you believe in me as your Lord? They say, no, we disbelieve in you. He commands the rain the skies to withhold its rain, and the earth to withhold its sustenance. And he will cause a drought. And this again is a test from Allah. He will remain on this earth for 40 days. 40 days. One day will be like a year. So one day is the equivalent of a year. The other day is the equivalent of a month. The day after that is equivalent to 1 week, and every day after that is the normal days that we see today. So about a year, 2 months and some change, he will remain on this earth. They said, Ya Rasulullah, when that time comes, so basically when it's a year long, the salah that we do, the prayers that we offer, are they considered just a day? So it's a year long, but because it's considered 1 day, is it only 5 times we pray in that day? And he says, no. Judge it. Give it its judgment. So basically you're praying, like today we've got watches, right? We know how long a day is. So when that day comes and 24 hours have passed, and you're looking at the sun and it's still in the sky, it hasn't came down, then this is that day that the Rasul is saying, judge it. Your prayer should be judged. So, every place he goes, he spreads corruption. He spreads terror. The people believe in him. Can you imagine there's a heavy drought on earth? So when he comes forth and he's showing you heaven and he's showing you hellfire and he's showing you he can bring forth the rain and he speaks to the earth and he says, bring forth your fruits, and it brings forth its fruit, people will fall for him. They will believe in him. And this is why the Rasul says, your Lord is not one-eyed. Dajjal is one-eyed and your Lord is not one-eyed. However, when he goes everywhere and he travels so fast, like a cloud in the wind. He can travel from one place to another like a cloud, and the wind pushes the cloud. That's how fast he can travel. However, when he gets to Mecca or Medina, he won't be able to enter it. And at the gates of Mecca and Medina are angels with swords who stop him from entering. And he comes to the boundaries of Medina. He can't enter Medina, so he comes to Medina. And then 3 great earthquakes will take place in Medina, which causes the hypocrites of Medina to flee, to exit Medina, and they go to him and they accept him as their Lord. And a man will come forth, a man will go to him. And this will be the best man on that day. And as he tries to approach him, the army stop him. The army of the Dajjal stop him. And they say, do you believe in our Lord? And he says, no. So they say, in that case, we will kill you. And they want to kill him, and he says, didn't your Lord, meaning the Dajjal, didn't he say to you, you're not allowed to do anything except by his will, by his permission? If you kill me, you've gone against his will. So they take him, and they're arguing amongst each other, and they take him to a Dajjal. And when they get to a Dajjal, he says to a Dajjal, I testify that you are a Dajjal. And he calls the people, and he says, oh people, this is a Dajjal, the one that the Rasul warned us of. Do not follow him. So a Dajjal commands for him to be tied and cut down the middle. And he is cut down the middle, and his body is spread 1/2 over on the right and 1/2 over on the left. And the Dajjal walks back and forth in between this man's body to show the people that he is dead. And he says, if I bring forth this man, then is that not proof that I am your God? So he commands the man to be brought back to life, and the 2 bodies come back, and he stands full again. This man then says, now I know that you are definitely the Dajjal that the Rasul warned us of. For wallahi, you're not going to be able to do that to me or to anybody else ever again. Allah only allowed you to do it once, and that was to me, and now you can never do it again. So they try and kill him, and they can't. They try and kill him, and in one narration, his neck becomes like iron. When they try and cut his neck, it doesn't have any effect. They can't cut it. So then they take him, and Dajjal takes him, and he throws him into the fire, his river of fire, and in fact the man has entered Jannah. He's entered paradise. And he will be the best man on that day. Then a time will come. A time will come where Isa, Jesus, the son of Mary, comes down. He comes down in Damascus at the white minaret. There's going to be a white minaret there, and he comes down at Damascus at that place. And when he comes down, he's descending on the shoulder of 2 angels. He's holding 2 angels, and he comes down to the earth. The Muslims pray the morning prayer, Salat al-Fajr, and then they head off to fight Ad-Dajjal. So they head towards Jerusalem, where the Dajjal has taken over. When the Dajjal sees Isa ibn Maryam, alayhi salatu salam, when he sees him, he turns and he flees, he tries to run. And as he's running, he begins to melt. As he's running, he begins to melt. Isa alayhi salam takes a spear and he catches up to him and he stabs him, making sure that this man is now dead, he's killed. And that will be how a Dajjal will be killed. By the hands of Jesus, not by the hands of anybody else. And when Jesus comes, the people will then believe in him. And when we say believe in him that he is a messenger, he is a prophet, he is a human, and he is not the Son of God. the Christians will accept this and they will believe in him as a messenger of Allah, and they will call in unity to Allah, meaning they will unify Allah as only one. Right now you have sects which say God is three, God is one of three, the Trinity. But on that day, they will testify that God is one. Then Allah says to Isa, to Jesus, that I have released a nation which you are not going to be able to do anything against. You can't fight them. No one will be able to fight them. And this nation, or these two nations, are called Gog and Magog. Yajuj or Majuj. And these are another of the major signs. Yajuj and Majuj, when they come forth, Isa alayhi salam and the remaining believers with him run to a mountain to seek refuge, to hide. Yajuj and Majuj are big in number. They're great in number, and they come forth so much so that when they reach a lake, they get to a lake and they begin drinking. By the time the last of them reaches the lake, there's no more water. The water is completely gone. And they say there used to be water here. Right now, Yajuj and Majuj are also alive. Right now they are two nations. They are not different creations. Right? Some people might say, oh, the type of this creature and that a creature called Gog and a creature called Magog. No. They are humans. They are a type of human that Allah has trapped in a place only Allah knows where. And when the promise of Allah comes, they will be freed. Right now they are trapped behind this wall and they dig at the wall every single day. Every single day they're trying to dig a hole so they can come forth. And every day they dig the hole, they go back at night. When they come back in the morning, the hole has disappeared and they have to dig all over again. Until one day, one of their leaders, he says, let's go to sleep and we will return tomorrow, inshallah. Tomorrow, inshallah, we will come back and dig. So when they come the next day, the hole is still there, and then they're able to expand on that hole. In a hadith, the Rasul he says to us, he wakes up one day and he says, Waylun lil Arab, woe to the Arabs from an evil which has come close. And he says, Yajuj and Majuj have dug a hole, and he points like this big. They have managed to dig a hole through the wall. They have managed to dig a hole through the wall. So on the day, the promise of Allah will come, where Yajuj and Majuj will be free. They can come through those walls. And they will wreak havoc. Everywhere they go, they spread corruption. They kill everyone in their sights. They destroy everything in front of them. In one narration, they destroyed everything on earth. They turn around and they say, now that we've destroyed everything on earth, let us destroy the dwellers of the heavens. And they point up with their bow and arrows. They shoot their arrows into the heavens, and Allah causes their arrows to come back with blood on them. So they think they've won the earth and the heavens. And this will take place and will remain until Isa alayhi salam and the followers with him raise their hands to Allah and ask Allah to get rid of them, to destroy them. So Allah then sends, subhanallah, Allah sends an army to them which destroys them all overnight. Overnight. The Muslims wake up in the morning and Yajuj and Majuj are gone, destroyed, killed. And what does Allah send? An insect. A small insect. Subhanallah. Humans, we think we're mighty and we're strong. We think we're better than everyone else. We're stronger than anyone else. And Allah sends to this nation an insect which goes into their ears, their necks, and destroys them. It kills them overnight. So then when the Muslims come down from the mountain, the stench, the rotten flesh is everywhere. So they stink all over this earth. There is not a single handspan except that there's a dead body and stench. Rot everywhere. So then Isa alayhi salam and the Muslims, they turn to Allah once again and they do dua that Allah cleans the air. So Allah sends down a bird, a type of bird which has a long neck, and they come and they take the bodies of Yajuj and Majuj and throw it to a place where Allah wants. Nobody knows where they take them. They just take them and get rid of them. Then heavy rain comes and washes the earth, so much so that the earth will turn white, like shining. It has this shine. It's like looking in a clean mirror. And that will be the destruction of Yajuj and Majuj. So we mentioned there will be the 10 signs, 10 major signs. So of them already, how many have we mentioned? How many have we gone through? So in the beginning I mentioned all 10. But right now what we've spoken about in depth, we've spoken about Dajjal, we've spoken about Isa, and we've spoken about Yajuj and Majuj. Right? So these, subhanallah, Dajjal and Isa, two major signs happening together. Isa and Yajuj and Majuj, two major signs happening together. So you can see the major signs are one after the other. I mean, they're together, they're close. Right? So after Yajuj and Majuj, Isa alayhi salam will remain on this earth with his followers. So Jesus will remain on earth with his followers. In one narration it says 40 years. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam wa a'lam. Allah knows best. It seems that narration has some weakness in it. But Allahu a'lam, how long he remains. So Jesus will remain with his followers until Allah sends a soft, gentle wind, a breeze, which takes the soul of all the believers. Every believer then passes away by this gentle soul. And this is also evident in the hadith of the Rasul ﷺ, when he says, how could this ummah be neglected or be destroyed? Meaning this ummah will not be destroyed. Right? This ummah will not be destroyed. And he says, how can it be destroyed when I am the first of them and Isa is the last of them? I am the first of them and Isa is the last of them. So here we learn that Isa alayhi salam will be the last of the Muslims to pass away. And again, in this other narration where the wind comes and it takes the believer man. Now, all that's left on earth are the disbelievers. In fact, not just disbelievers, the evildoers who fornicate, kill, lie, cheat, spread corruption on this earth. Until there's only them left, then Allah's anger overcomes and descends upon this earth, and the hour is established. And we will discuss next week, inshallah, the beginning of the hour, and I'll try and discuss as much of it, inshallah, and how grave the establishment of the hour is. When Allah destroys the earth, how this is a major thing, something we should all be afraid of. Wallahi, we should all be afraid of. Allah gives us snippets in the Quran of that day when He says, the breastfeeding mother. Can you imagine a mother who's breastfeeding her child? Would she give that child up? Have you all seen an animal, a chicken or any type of animal, or a bear? We watch a lot on the National Geographic channels. they become very vicious when they have children. Right? Very vicious. When their child is next to them, I dare you to go open. Even a chicken, you know, a chicken, when you go and chase a chicken and it runs away. Wallahi, when it has a baby, when it has a little chick next to it, you go to touch the chicken attacks you. Never will it let you come close to it. Chickens become vicious. I've experienced it myself. I've been chased by a few chickens. And subhanAllah, here Allah says, when the mother is breastfeeding her child, and a great screech is made, a great sound is made, the mother throws her child off her breast. She doesn't want to breastfeed, no, she wants to run. She forgets her child and she runs. This is what the establishment of the hour is. It's a very, very scary and grave situation. And we should all take heed and we seek refuge from that day. We ask Allah that He doesn't let us see that day. So, inshallah, I'll leave it there today. The other major signs, which we mentioned, the three sinkholes, the smoke, the fire, the beast, they all occur. There is not much description I can tell you about them at this moment. I think they're self-explanatory in itself anyway. So inshallah we'll leave them there for now. And next week, like we said, we will talk about the establishment of the hour, the hisab, so the judgment itself, and then what happens in Jannah and what happens in Jahannam. How we will enter Jannah and how we will enter Jahannam. And we seek refuge in Allah from Jahannam. And we ask Allah to enter us into Jannah without any accountability. وَجَزَاكُمُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا. Inshallah, next week's lecture will be a little bit longer just because of how much I have to discuss. And it will be the last of this series, so we want to try and cover as much as possible. So for now, inshallah, does anybody have any questions? We discussed that, did I not? We mentioned Isa alayhi salam. So the brother's asking what's the reason for Isa alayhi salam to come down. So one of the main reasons is no one can kill Dajjal except Isa. Right? One of the other reasons Allah says in the Quran, La ilaha illallah, subhanallah, An-Naseeha. I'm thinking about another ayah. So Isa alayhi salam hasn't been given his full time on earth. So he has to return to complete his time on earth. Right? Another reason is like the brother just mentioned, which we mentioned last week. Allah says, we created you from the earth, we return you to the earth, and we resurrect you from the earth. So Jesus has to come back down because he was created from earth, and he will be resurrected from earth. So he will be back on earth. Inshallah, these are the asbab, nuzul Isa. With tawheed. And to clarify the oneness of Allah. Because in the Quran we recite at least 17 times a day in Surah Al-Fatiha. We say near the end, La ilaha illallah. Subhanallah. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. What's right, but purposely they do what's wrong. So they earn the anger of Allah. And then we say غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين, and nor the misguided ones. Who are the misguided? The Christians. Why do we say misguided? It's because their truth, their book was hidden from them, and they only get whatever their priests give to them, and they are misguided, and they do not, the Christians today don't even know what's the word of God and what's the word of man anymore. Their Bible has been distorted, so we say they're misguided. So when Isa comes and he guides them to the oneness of Allah, we mentioned the Christians, they believe straight away. When Isa comes down, the Christians believe, and this shows they're misguided. Where the Jews, they join who? The Jews, they join at Dajjal, the Antichrist. Even though they know a Dajjal is coming, they believe in the Dajjal, it's in their scriptures, yet they join the Dajjal. Again, this is why they're in the anger of Allah. Any other questions, inshallah?
Beginning of the lecture, you mentioned the treaty that takes place between the Muslims and the non-Muslims.
Yes.
Is it specifically the West, or does it just mention non-Muslims, generally speaking?
Banu al-Asfar. So the Romans. So back in the time of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so the treaty takes place between the Muslims and the Romans. The Muslims and the Romans. And modern day scholars, because Rome doesn't exist anymore. Rome doesn't exist. However, by word it doesn't exist, by meaning it exists. So the meaning of the Romans, it means the Europeans and the Americans. Because America is originally West Europeans. So we say it's Europeans and America, so the West. The West. Any other questions, inshallah?
They said where they actually break that treaty and they kill the king. Has that already happened?
No. So some of the modern day scholars today, they say we see the treaty already taking place now. Right? There's already treaties between Muslim lands and non-Muslim lands, where they come together, they support one another, they help one another, right? This is the meaning of a treaty. This is what a treaty is. And has the treaty been broken? No, it hasn't been broken yet. It will be broken after after a fight, another war. There's one question, inshallah, that Ibn Kathir asked, and he answered. SubhanAllah, he asked it himself and he answered. And I was thinking somebody will bring this up. Because I hear people talking about it every now and again, but nobody today asked it. If a Dajjal is true, why is it not mentioned in the Quran? Why is it not mentioned in the Quran? Good point, sir. Good question. So Ibn Kathir then answers, and he says, he is mentioned in the Quran. And if you understand the Quran, you'll understand the translation. And this is a fault with us. We don't understand the Quran anymore. But by translation, he's there. In one ayah, Allah says, when you fear the day that comes forth, the day that comes forth is a Dajjal. In translation is a Dajjal. And Ibn Kathir, he brings his evidence to this. But in another, what Ibn Kathir says, he says, even though there's some evidence hinting towards a Dajjal, it does not be fitting for Allah to mention him by name, because he is of the lowest of the low. He is of, we believe in him already, that Dajjal exists. The ahadith are there, they are strong, they are authentic. We believe that Dajjal exists. But there is no reason to mention him in the Quran, because we believe he is of the worst of trials, and two, the worst of people. Why is he the worst of people? Because he says, I am your Lord. He claims to be Allah. Therefore Allah won't mention him in the Quran. Why should Allah mention him when he's claiming to be Allah? Then somebody will ask, what about Fir'aun? Fir'aun says, I am your Lord, and Allah mentions Fir'aun in the Quran, right? But subhanAllah, Ibn Kathir, he says, Fir'aun is the past. It's already happened. Therefore, when Allah mentions him, it's a lesson that he's past. Look, he's dead. He's already gone. He won't help you. He can't do anything. But Dajjal is in the future. Therefore, it's not befitting to mention. So, I wanted to mention something, inshallah, before one of the questions I had is, how do we protect ourselves from the fitna? Or from a Dajjal as well? So we mentioned one of them, which we ask Allah, right? After the salah, or just before we end the salah, we do the dua, right? There's another 3 things that we can do. And Ibn Kathir mentions these. He says, the first one is reciting the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf. The first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf. In the narration, the Rasul says, whosoever memorizes the opening verses of Al-Kahf, he will be protected from the fitna of Dajjal. So we need to memorize this for ourselves. I know some of us don't know the Quran by heart, but when something evidence like this comes to you, let's try and at least memorize these same things, like Ayatul Kursi, for example, after every salah. When we recite Ayatul Kursi or before we sleep, we recite Ayatul Kursi and the virtues of Ayatul Kursi. It's only one ayah. Let's memorize it. And in here is the same thing. Here is the same thing. It's only 10 verses, and they are small verses. So let's memorize them, inshallah. Make sure we memorize them. The family members around us, we help them memorize. Be patient with one another when we're teaching. So reciting opening verses of Ayatul Kursi. The other thing is stay away. Don't hear the Dajjal come forth and you go running towards him. Stay away. We mentioned that when people see him, they fall. They fall to him. They believe in him. What guarantees you that you will be of those who are saved? Especially today, when we're, subhanAllah, today, the fitna around us, these tests and trials are around us, and they create doubt in our minds about our own religion. Never mind the fitna of Dajjal. If these small things that mean nothing are creating doubt in our minds, then what do we say about the Dajjal when he comes forth? Curiosity. Curiosity killed the cat. That's the problem. Everyone is curious. Everyone is curious. If something happens, everybody runs towards the fire just to see what's going on. Protect yourselves. If the fire is coming, run away from it. Why go towards it? The third thing, and Ibn Kathir mentions this, he says, Dajjal cannot enter Mecca or Medina. So one of the things we should try to do is live in Mecca or Medina. We need a visa. We need a visa to go there. But subhanAllah, whoever has the intention and he is true to Allah, Allah will be true to him. And this is ultimately what it is. If we're true to Allah, Allah is true to us. And if we can't make it there, then Allah will write the reward for you. Because the actions are judged by their intentions. So if the intention is pure, then the action was pure. But the intention, if it was impure, then the action is impure. For example, a man gives £10 in charity. But he's doing it for the sake of God. He's doing it for the sake of Allah. Allah will reward him for that £10 70 times, even 700 times its reward. 700 times its reward of £10. If you give £1, Allah will give you £700. If you give £10, Allah gives you £7,000. Think about that. But when you're doing it for somebody, say you're with a friend, and your friend is always like, oh, mashallah, you've got money. You're rich, you're this, you're that. Or you see your friend giving a charity, so you're like, how can he give a charity? I'm better off than him. So you see a poor person, you go, here's £10, because your friend is with you. So you're doing it for the sake of your friend, not for the sake of Allah. You're doing it so your friend can say, he gives a charity. So it's the same action, but the intention was different. And this is why we say the action are judged by their intentions. If the intention is pure, the action is pure. And this is why we should always correct ourselves. And La ilaha illallah. One of the scholars of today, I forgot which one, subhanAllah. He says, doing an act. So sometimes people worry your intention is not directed in the right way, right? When you go to do something, what I've just mentioned, you've got a friend with you. Sometimes you give anyway, but this time happens to be your friend next to you. Your friend gives and you go to give. And you stop and you think, wait a minute. Am I doing it for the sake of my friend or am I doing it for the sake of Allah? Shaitan makes you think this, right? Shaitan makes you think you're doing it for the sake of him, for the sake of your friend. Leave it. Don't give the charity. This is what Shaitan says to you. Better not to give it. Give it another time. Right? The scholars, they say, the person who leaves, he's a hypocrite. He's a hypocrite. The person who leaves, this is riya. The one who doesn't give, it's riya. And the person who gives, because his friend is watching, you know, he just ignores the shaitan. He goes, you know what, so what, my friend's watching, I'll give it and let him brag. He goes, this person, so the first person is a hypocrite, the first person is committing riya, the second person is a hypocrite. Right? The first person is doing riya, the second person is hypocrisy. What we say is, when you feel this, stop. You've got the £10 in your pocket, you go to give it, stop. Renew your intention, and your intention belongs in your heart. You don't need to speak it out. Renew your intention. Say, between you and your Lord, say, oh Allah, this is for you. Oh Allah, accept it from me. And give the charity. Don't let shaitan guide you away, and don't let shaitan misguide you. Give it. Be generous. But remember to do it for the sake of Allah, because He is the one who rewards. And His reward is the hereafter. And people's reward is here, in this life. And what have we seen from people's reward? Nothing. A person will give you £1 million today, tomorrow that £1 million is gone. Right? We've seen countries recently, very recently, countries, well, a loaf of bread today here in Britain costs us what? £1. In those countries, the loaf of bread costs you what a house costs. People are going hungry because all of a sudden their money means nothing. So any reward in this life means nothing. We don't want the reward in this life. We want the reward in the hereafter. And that's why we're good in this life, for the reward in the hereafter. So that's gone a bit of a tangent. Inshallah, it's still grouped with everything. Any other questions?
You mentioned the fire from Yemen.
Yes.
Some scholars, they say it has been already, the fire.
To be honest, I haven't come up about it. The ones that I've researched, the fire from Yemen hasn't happened. One, because it's a major sign, so it comes with the major signs. Two is because it's one of the last things that take place, because it makes the people run out of Yemen and out of anywhere in the world, because it spreads everywhere, and they run to the place of their gathering of Yom Al-Qiyamah. So they will be running from this fire and to the place that they will be resurrected from. Any other questions? خلاص آخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.